We're now going to talk about unit peer leader training. In this module, you will learn about the roles and responsibilities associated with being a unit peer leader. This module will talk about unit peer leader roles and responsibilities. And as we enter into this module and talk about what's expected of you as a unit peer leader, I want every single one of you either watching in a classroom today, or if you're at a desk with a few of you, or maybe you're on your own watching this training module. But every single one of you brings a unique set of perspectives, of experiences, of ideas to your role as a unit peer leader. So don't ever be intimidated by the fact that perhaps you're brand new in this role, perhaps you're brand new as a nurse or to the hospital or facility or unit where you are stepping up to take on this really important role. Bring your best ideas. Sometimes people who've been in this role for a long time, we can kind of get stuck in a certain way of doing things, and we need those fresh ideas and those fresh perspectives. So I just want to thank every single one of you for stepping up to this role or continuing in this role, because what you do makes a world of difference to the patients you serve and to your co-workers who treat those patients. So you really are the link between the research and the front line. I'm going to play a few minutes of this video for you, which is coming to us from Bill Maris, who is a researcher in human factors and engineering from Ohio State University. And this is a compilation of little different clips from TED Talks he has done that just gives you the little bit of history about the physiology of back injuries and the why safe patient handling and mobility is important in the first place. So let's listen in to Dr. Maris as he talks about low back pain.
I've had back pain. Maybe the way I should ask this is, anybody here not had back pain? Low back disorders are the most disabling condition known to mankind, not only in the United States, but around the world. No matter what country you go to, you're going to find this is the #1 condition that puts people on the sidelines. So in the United States alone, we lose about 100 million lost workdays per year to low back pain, and we spend in the neighborhood of $100 billion treating people for low back pain. So, we're typically concerned about the disc. If you look at the spine, you have 24 vertebrae, and in between each one of these vertebrae is a little disc, which is sort of like a shock absorber. And if we look at this in close-up, we can see that there's good space in between those vertebral bodies that is offered by the disc. And we also see that you have these little tubes or cables that come out of the spinal cord, and these go down to serve different parts of your body. And if you put pressure on that, that's when you have a problem, sort of like you see at the bottom right here. So as a matter of fact, here's somebody who had a rupture of the disc that's pushing against that nerve root, and that's when you get things like sciatica going down your leg. So how does this all occur? In order to understand how this occurs, we have to understand something about the anatomy of the disc and how it gets its nutrition. If you look at the disc, it's almost like a tire that you lay on its side. Okay, so it's got lots of crosshatch fibers, which are like plies of that tire, and in the center you've got a gelatinous core, and it also has this tiny cap on the top called an end plate. That end plate is only about 1 millimeter thick, and its purpose in life is to diffuse nutrients into that disc. The disc itself has no blood supply like most parts of your body. So how does it get its nutrition? Well, it gets them from the vertebrae above and below, and basically what happens is these nutrients go through that end plate and nourish those fibers and make the disc happy. Now, we also get vertebral implants. How many people here have had a vertebral implant microfracture?
Probably
How many
everyone.
people here have ever lifted anything heavy? Yeah, you probably had a vertebral implant microfracture, but you just don't know it because we don't have any nerve sensors or what we call nociceptors in that part of the body. It's okay if you get one of those, it'll heal, but what if your job requires you to get lots of these things? Well, these things will heal, but they heal in the form of scar tissue. And one of the things we know about scar tissue is it's thicker and denser than most other types of tissues in the body. So what do you think happens to those nutrients when they try and pass through this end plate? Well, some of them make it through, some of them don't, and subsequently we get atrophy of the disc fibers, parts of the disc die off. That's how we get weak discs, and that's how things get bad in terms of ruptures. So as an engineer, what we do is look at the load imposed on those tissues of the body compared to the tolerance. So here's typically the way to look at things. Here's the tolerance of a tissue. Here's the load of a tissue. And if the load exceeds that tolerance, then you're going to feel pain. What we try and do is design jobs so those loads are well below there. Now,
so what Dr. Maris is sharing here is what's going on with every one of our backs when we lift and move and handle patients manually. And those microfractures, as he said, our backs will heal, but we stop getting nutrition to the disc. And that's why very often people throw their back out sneezing, or picking up a Kleenex from the floor, or picking up their baby out of a car seat. It's not that one time that caused the injury. It's all those other times that we lifted and moved and kept overworking and cumulatively building the strain and stress in our backs. So if you have people who are resistant to using equipment, this is one of the tools that you can have in your toolbox as a unit peer leader. And it's not about you must use equipment because that's what our policy says. If we can approach this with, we care about your back, we care about you, we need to care about each other. And in order to care for each other, we want our backs to leave at the end of the day the same condition that they arrived when we got to work that morning, or to leave in the morning the same way as our backs got to, that we got to work in the evening hour. So that's really the message with the anatomy and the physiology. And if you can understand that, that's going to help you get one more tool in your toolbox. Because this is a quote that was from Bob Prozin and my friend and your co-worker as well, Susan Wyatt at the Phoenix VA. This is one of the quotes that she uses at the beginning of the day. It's all about possibilities. But at the end of the day, it's about results. It's about what did we actually do. We can have the best of intentions, but it's our actions that make a difference. So what I'd like you to do for a moment here, again, whether you're in a large group, whether you're watching this by yourself, just take a moment, pause the video, think about what it is about being a unit peer leader that you either enjoy, or what is it that you're excited about? What motivates you to step up and be a unit peer leader? Because let's be honest, it's not always easy, right? There are challenges, there are difficulties, but what is it that drives you? Because whatever it is, I recommend you take a sticky note and you put it on your computer, put it in your workspace, wherever you are likely to see it. Because those days when it feels like, why am I doing this? This motivating factor is going to help you. The big why. Why am I stepping up? And as you go through this module, note areas that you think are strengths that you have as a unit peer leader, and areas that you feel you need more training in, areas that you feel are just vulnerable areas for you. Speak to your facility coordinator about those and how to become stronger in those areas. Your primary role as a peer leader is to ensure that your co-workers on your unit know and can correctly demonstrate how to safely move their patients according to your safe patient handling and mobility policy. So each of these areas you're going to learn more about, either in this module or in the other modules. But the equipment, the lifts, the slings, where are your lifts and slings stored? How and when do you use each piece of equipment? On what kinds of patients? And if plan A doesn't work, what is your plan B? Without reverting to manual handling, because remember, every time you manually lift, push, or pull more than 35 pounds, you are creating those microfractures in your spine, and so are your coworkers. What do you do if equipment is unavailable or not working? Who to contact in your facility? And how to sign off on competency landscapes to document that all of your coworkers on your unit have received training and can demonstrate that they know how to use the lifts and the slings safely. So let's talk a little bit about PPE, because in the last couple of years, right now we're in 2021, we have heard a lot about limitations of PPE and the importance of masks and N95 masks and cappers and pappers. And we know that PPE for respiratory against bacteria and viral pathogens, these bacteria and viruses can cause temporary or lifelong problems, right, with our health. Use of this PPE is mandatory. We would not dream of going into a patient's room who is COVID positive or who has C. difficile or who has MRSA without having the proper PPE. Use is mandatory. Let's think about the bottom picture. Safe patient handling technology protects against mechanical forces that, read this carefully, can cause us temporary or long-term problems with our health. The use should be every bit as mandatory as a mask and gloves and a gown and a face shield. So again, they are both PPE, both should be considered mandatory. So let's talk a little bit about training and competency. Different ways that you can train people on your unit. Conduct and assist in staff training. Orienting new employees on your unit or away from the unit as directed by your facility coordinator. Helping complete equipment competencies. Working to assist your co-workers and patient and family training as needed. Also speak to your unit managers and your unit-based educators or your clinical nurse leaders to know when there are new staff on your unit and how you can work with those educators and unit managers to capture everybody, not just when they're new to your unit, but throughout the course of their employment. If you see a new face, get to know them. Ensure that they have their safe patient handling mobility competencies for your unit. Don't ever assume that just because they work in the same hospital, they know all the equipment that's on your unit. Other units might not have the same equipment that you have. They may not be stored in the same places. This is an example of a competency landscape. This may be what you use, or you may have something different. But make sure you know what your equipment is and how your unit checks competencies for the staff. so that you can fulfill this part of your role as a unit peer leader. Owning your zone. This is probably one of the most important things as a unit peer leader. You are the champion for safety for your co-workers and their patients as it relates to handling and moving. Know all the equipment on your unit. I know I'm going to say this a dozen times, maybe in this module and in other modules, you will hear this. It cannot be overstated enough. Know everything about your equipment, the stuff that's used all the time, and also the pieces of equipment that are used more infrequently, or the accessories that you may be sharing with other units. Know where you can get those, know how to use them, and make sure they're always working. Stay up to date on safe patient handling and help your co-workers stay up to date as well. Now, I deliberately said safe patient handling because I want to take the M and add that so that it's not just SPHM. Safe patient handling, mobility. The mobility piece is so very important. And it's important that you know how to mobilize your patients passively without them participating, but also know how to use the equipment actively. The other modules that are going to be available to you include knowing the equipment and how to build mobility in to daily nursing care using the equipment. So you'll learn more about this in some of the other modules. Help your co-workers be successful through using equipment during training and monitoring use. But use equipment. Ensure they're using equipment. Model safe behavior all the time, because others are looking up to you to see what does the champion do, because they will follow you. They'll follow your actions much more than they will follow your words, right? I don't know how many of you are parents, but certainly I have three, one who's out of the teenage years, one who's just left teenage years, and one who's just entering teenage years. And do what I say, not what I do, doesn't work. And neither does it work with safety. We really have to be modeling that behavior that we want our co-workers to use. Ask your facility coordinator with input about new equipment, or assist them with input about new equipment, problem solving and safety huddles, and then communicate and network with your other unit peer leaders in your unit and outside of your unit so that you can help each other. Some may have found great solutions to things that you're struggling with, and you may be able to help others with things they are struggling with that you have found solutions to. So I'm going to share this little story with you, and it's titled, Whose Job Is It Anyway? And you may be able to relate to this. It's a story about four people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Right? So are you still with me here? The bottom line from this story is designate specific tasks. Make sure if you have somebody that needs to charge the batteries, tell them that that is their job. Don't assume ever that somebody will do something, because chances are somebody will think somebody else is going to do it and nobody will do it. So again, be specific, designate the tasks. It should not be your job as a unit peer leader to do everything on your unit. Enlist the help of your techs, your nurse aides, your RNs, your educators, the unit managers. We are one team, and no one person can do this alone. So engage the team, embrace the team. Being a unit champion, you are the motivator, the cheerleader. Lead by example, live the vision. Encourage your co-workers and provide immediate feedback. Let people know when they've done something right. So often, we always jump on people when they don't do things right. And you may feel this in your role, that people notice when you don't do something, but man, it's nice to be recognized when you do get things right. So be cognizant of that as a unit peer leader. You don't need a manager role or a title to make a difference. I want to say that again because it's really, really important. You have stepped up to be a unit peer leader. You have already shown by that action that you care. Caring and being prepared to step up and help is so much more important than a title. So don't wait for a title. Be that champion, be that motivator, be that cheerleader, and give people feedback. Demonstrate demonstrate and practice best practice all the time. Talk with your co-workers to understand what's stopping them from using safe patient handling and mobility. Ask them and really listen. One of the other modules is on crucial conversations, and that gets into a lot more detail about some scripting ideas and how conflicts are set up and how to de-escalate them quickly and how to engage in that conflict to help it be a positive thing and not a negative thing. People want to do well, but they can be easily discouraged. Be persistent for the right, safe way to care for your patients. Doing it safely is the right way. It's just finding that energy, that persistence to keep that message going. So a quick knowledge check. As a unit peer leader, you should be the one doing everything on your unit to make sure the equipment is always working and where it's supposed to be. Is that true or false? Check which one you think it is, and that is false. Hopefully that's what you either wrote down or were thinking because you want to engage the whole team. Let's try another one. You see a new person on your unit. You correctly think, oh, they're probably only here for a couple of shifts. I don't need to do any safe patient handling mobility training with them. Or B, they've probably got trained in another unit, so I don't have to do it. Or C, I should check with them to make sure they know how to use all equipment on this unit. Or D, it's a unit-based educator's job or the clinical nurse leader's job to train them. I don't have time today. Hopefully, all of you were thinking C, that it is your job to check and make sure that they know all the equipment on this unit, on your unit. So let's move on to equipment. You will learn more about specific uses of equipment in the equipment module, but again, know what you have, know where it's stored, know how to check the batteries, how to charge the batteries. Make sure that the equipment is stored in the same place as the battery chargers are. And if it's not, talk to your biomed, talk to your facility coordinator to see if you can either get the equipment moved or the battery chargers moved so that you always have the charger right next to the lips. Make sure you know your slings, the types, the quantities, the conditions, the inventory, where to order them from. Provide expertise on use of safe patient handling and mobility to assist with care planning, including fall prevention, mobility screening, pressure injury prevention, including safe, dignified care for patients of size. Know the process for daily inspections and preventive maintenance and who to call for service. If you don't know this right now, make it a point, an action plan, write it down. Find out who I need to call if there's something not working. Provide input to your facility coordinator if equipment is not functioning or not available. And for new equipment, if you see anything new or you've been to a conference or you've watched a webinar and you see something, provide that input to your facility coordinator. Attend your unit peer leader meetings. Networking and support is really, really important as a unit peer leader because people can get burned out. It is the right thing to do, but it can be exhausting. And I just strongly encourage you to use your networking team support one another, build each other up, and reward each other with just pats on the back. Hey, that was really good. When I saw you do this, that made me think about doing this on my unit. When I saw how you worked with your coworker, how you taught them how to do that, you had some really good things, the way you put things, the way you said it in a really easy to understand way. Can I use your words? You can help each other and be specific, because that really, really helps to keep us motivated and to keep building the motivation. Network with other unit peer leaders, attend your conference calls, communicate about changes and about the status of safe patient handling and mobility on your unit. Share best practices. Present training in a way that makes it attractive, easy, obvious, and satisfying. We talked about giving feedback. Celebrate your successes. Put posters on the wall. Put things in newsletters. Reinforce positive changes frequently. And then be persistent. Share best practices with your peers. Present training in a way that makes it attractive, easy, obvious, and satisfying. Provide feedback. Be specific. We talked about this already. Celebrate successes. Share with posters, with newsletters, cookies. Now, in COVID, that's a little bit more challenging, but find ways. It doesn't always have to be a big ordeal. Celebrating in little ways can be good too. Reinforce positive changes frequently and be persistent. So let's look at another knowledge check question. Which of the following are ways to stay up to date on best practices for safe patient handling and mobility? Attend monthly unit peer leader meetings, go to conferences on safe patient handling and mobility, read articles, or all of the above are good options. I'm guessing that you all answered correctly. D, all of the above are good options. Let's talk about some ideas, some specific things that you can do to outside of classroom training. Because often what I hear from unit peer leaders is it's really, really difficult to get a block of time to train co-workers. Quick 10-minute in-services at the nurse's station. Hey guys, you know what? Whoever's here, we're going to work on the powered stand aid. It can be 5-10 minutes. Somebody gets in it, hook up a sling, check people off that they knew how to do it. You can do just-in-time training, where instead of specifically pulling people away from patient care, you go to them and help mentor while they are preparing, while they're working with their patient. You can help teach and mentor on the slings, on the lifts, during a toileting assist, boosting assist. Manning the call bell is a great way to do some training, because that's when a lot of those opportunities where people need help arise. I need boosting help in room such and such. I need bathroom help. I need positioning help. I need help very often means a physical assistance. So that's a way that you really can be effective in a short period of time in reaching a lot of people on your unit. Monthly unit meetings, formal educational events, skills days, and then upon request from your facility coordinator. I want now to just switch gears a little bit and think about your role as a trainer and teacher being a unit peer leader. And look at these positive and negative traits. We've all had educators who inspire us and those who bore us to death, right? Consider those you recognize in yourself, both the positive and the negative traits. Think about the traits of people who you think of as great educators. Are they passionate about their subject? Are they dynamic, knowledgeable? Are they positive? Do they come across as being enthusiastic? Do they vary their voice inflection? Or are they monotone? Are they interesting? Is it easy to listen to them? Do they receive and are they responsive to questions? Do they actively listen when you ask a question? Do they use terms that are understandable? Are they articulate or do they mumble? Do they make learning relevant to you? And do they make learning fun? You can then take all those traits and the negative ones too. You've probably read them as fast as I've read the positive ones. Write down a couple that you identify in yourself, both the positive and the negative. Positive, you keep pushing and working on those. The negative ones, make a plan to see if you can improve on those skills. So this is what we just did. Identify one strength you have as a teacher and one area where you can improve. And write down one thing as a unit peer leader that you can do to help your co-workers stay up to date on equipment, thinking back over the last few slides. Next, one of the other responsibilities you have is implementing and sustaining the program, knowing the process, right? So this little girl, we have a process, who knew? Know your laundering processes, PMs, annual training, audits, injury reports, safety huddles. Again, we've said this frequently, attend those monthly unit peer leader meetings. This is where you can really work through any new processes, make suggestions. If you see an opportunity, remember we said at the very beginning, you bring fresh ideas. Bring those to those meetings and see if you can implement some of the new processes or new ways of doing things. Safety huddles are very important. You want to use the 5 whys to get to the root of the problem. You want to capture near misses, have an opportunity to plan for systematic resolution, share perspectives, be brief, focus on solutions and processes, not blaming people, and think of safety huddles as opportunities for effective team building. People often ask, why do we use 5 whys? The whys are, okay, somebody got hurt. Well, why did they get hurt? Well, they were boosting a patient in bed. Why were they boosting a patient manually? Well, because the lift wasn't working. Why wasn't the lift working? Well, it was taken out of service. Why was it taken out of service? Or why was it not put back in service? Because I didn't know how to put in an electronic work order, or because nobody followed up on it. Always try to get to the root. And it's not about blaming, it's about the busyness. It's about sometimes the processes. Maybe it's about flagging an urgency level with biomed when a piece of equipment is taken out of service. Maybe it's about knowing where spare equipment might be or spare parts for equipment, knowing numbers to call right away so that a piece of equipment does not sit without working for any longer than it absolutely has to. And sometimes people say, well, can't you get there in 2 whys or 3 whys? Very often, what we have found is it takes 5 of those to get to the root. Sometimes more, sometimes you can identify it right away. Before injuries occur, think process. What happened to threaten the patient or staff safety? These are our near misses. What should have happened? What could have happened? What accounted for the difference? Are there actions that you could take as a unit peer leader? Are there things that you see on your unit that you just know are an accident waiting to happen? An example is flat batteries that aren't charged and don't hold their charge anymore. Observing that is the first step, it's the first why in a patient fall happening or a caregiver injury happening. Because that might be the reason why the lift didn't work when they went to try it and why they went to do things manually and why the patient ended up on the floor. So again, what I want to do here is just come back to all the things that you do. Some of them may seem what we say unseen and unimportant. Some of the mundane things that are not necessarily filled with glory and accolade, such as organizing an equipment room, stacking slings neatly, making sure the PM labels are easy for people to see. They seem like mundane, unseen tasks, but please know those tasks are every bit as important as celebrating outcomes at a conference. You don't get the outcomes without the processes working, without those things that you are doing every day on your unit to make all of it work. So be encouraged, stick with the mundane, be persistent in your processes, figure out what's not working, and if you don't know the answer, speak to other unit peer leaders, network, work with your unit manager, work with your educators, work with your facility coordinator. You have this amazing team. Get everybody together. So this is an example of a safety huddle guide. There are many different examples, but this is just one. Examples of near misses, we've already talked about this. I'll give you a moment to read this slide, but failure to use lifts, manual lifting, slings or lifts are not in good condition, failure to ensure work orders are placed, batteries aren't charged, unavailable slings, failure to check the slings first time and every time before using them. So one more knowledge check here. All of the following should occur during a safety huddle except ask 2 whys to get to the root of the problem. Discuss the potential harm to the patient or caregiver. Discuss potential solutions. Focus on the system level problems rather than blaming the individual, or include near miss injuries. Hopefully everybody answered A. Ask 2 whys, because why is that wrong? We should be asking 5. Next, we want to make sure everybody knows about the program. If they don't, or if there's a lot of turnover of staff, think about posters, badge buddies, signage, reports, successes, newsletters. Keep the message going. If your program is running really well and everybody knows their role, this is less necessary. But when you have a lot of turnover, new staff, refunctioning, repurposing, new equipment, make sure you let people know. Some of the challenges and solutions to the barriers you come up against when it's tough to get management support. Try to provide time in daily workflow to accomplish responsibilities. Try to promote staff safety as a high priority. Always come to the table with, I care most about staff and patient safety. Therefore, I need to talk to you about this. We had a near miss. We had a difficulty with a sling. We haven't been able to get the right equipment. Other ways you can say that, safety for staff and patients is my top priority. Please, can we address this problem? When can we talk about this? Engagement. Again, this is another question. Safety for staff and caregivers, or safety for staff and patients, is the most important thing. This is what we're learning in HRO. It's really important for me to be able to attend meetings so that I can fulfill my role to keep everybody safe. Teamwork, work together. We've talked about that a lot already. Use facility education systems already that you have, TMS. Maybe you're even watching this module in TMS. Clinical skills to assign equipment or review videos. And then track your activities and maintain your lead status and include on your proficiency. I'm going to keep coming back throughout the modules to just reflecting on your strengths and where you think you need more training, because the conversation does not end after you watch this module or the series of modules. Follow up with your facility coordinator. Let them know so that you really can be successful in your role as a unit peer leader. So Safe Patient Handling Mobility Program success requires both a skilled facility coordinator and unit peer leader participation. Your facility coordinator is responsible for coordinating and monitoring the program in collaboration with other necessary departments and is a liaison between the unit peer leader and the national program. Unit peer leaders are the liaison between the facility coordinator and your unit. So you know your unit better than the facility coordinator does. You know the personalities, the unique dynamics, the culture on your unit, storage issues, staffing issues, patient acuity, the kinds of patients you struggle with. You know that better than your facility coordinator. So this is where you can help them understand what's needed on your unit. And then both are critical to your program success. Both may represent multiple departments, and both are required to achieve culture change and program sustainability. So superheroes serving our superheroes, this is what you are. You are the superheroes serving our superheroes who have served. And one of the signs that I have seen in many of your veteran facilities is you will see the cost of freedom here. Let that sink in. I know that you live it every day in the VA. But this is our chance to give back. You truly are superheroes. And we're going to talk about some of our most loved superheroes and the traits that they exude and how you exude those traits as unit peer leaders. You are Superman. The unit peer leader character traits, loyalty, and the duty to defend the good of humanity. Safe patient handling mobility truly is for the good of humanity. If there's evidence for effectiveness, consider specifically the humanitarian good you are doing. And remind yourself often. Look at each other. If you're in the room right now with somebody else, look at another unit peer leader and say, you are Superman, you are Superwoman. If you're watching by yourself, look in the mirror, look at your phone. Tell yourself, because you truly are. I know that seems a little cheesy, but encouragement is so important. You are Batman or Batwoman. The traits, perseverance, and identity. The identity of the person leading the program is less important than the cause or the mission. The cause or the mission is safety. Make sure that that is what is projected and not the identity of Margaret or whoever is leading a program. Describe ways you can ensure that the mission of Safe Patient Handling and Mobility is the identity of the program rather than the leader. And in what ways can you communicate this with your staff? You are Wonder Woman, Wonder Man. Character traits, truth. Sometimes the truth hurts, right? Discuss examples in a two-way street, sharing truth about safe patient handling and mobility. And what staff may share with you, ask them for honest feedback. That can be really, really hard, but be prepared. This is a skill in and of itself that you can work on. Be prepared for them to share. Hey, Margaret, sometimes you are just too overbearing, and I find your energy just too much. Can you kind of scale it down a bit? That's okay. Sometimes our strengths are also a challenge for us in this leadership role. Hey, when you're doing training, can you explain it better? I didn't understand how you were explaining that. It was over my head. As a unit peer leader, take that on board and say, okay, how can I explain it better? Again, this comes back to listening to understand and then letting those co-workers know that you have heard them and that you are going to work with them to overcome that. When people give you truth, those are opportunities. Those are opening doors to overcome resistance. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the Crucial Conversations module. You are Black Panther. Character traits are increased senses, Know the temperature of safe patient handling mobility on your unit. Respond with strength and fearlessness to fix issues that need to be fixed, and lend a hand wherever it's needed. Ask your facility coordinator for specific resources that are at a facility level. So examples of these may include competencies or landscapes for specific equipment on your unit, how to process electronic work orders, what the processes are in your facility, who to call in your facility if all these things that can go wrong. So make sure that you know what these unit specific and facility specific policies, processes, forms, order sets are. In this slide, you have a multitude of patient videos that have been created within the VA by your peers. They are phenomenal, and they go over in patient language how to use these different pieces of equipment and what they're used for. And the verbiage that is used in these is really, really good. I strongly recommend go and watch each and every one of them and use that verbiage every day when you're talking about safe patient handling and mobility tools, because that is then going to make sure that your veterans and your patients are hearing the same terms. It helps with communication and consistency of messaging. Now I'm going to share now a short video that this was prepared and given with permission for this module by your fearless National Program Manager, Dr. Tony Hilton, who put this together for a conference. And raising up your veterans, this is what you're doing every day. This video makes me cry every time I play it. I want you to just sit back and just let it wash over you for a few minutes here.
In town, and oh, my soul so weary, and troubles come, and my heart's burnt heavy. When I am still and I sit in silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up to mountains. You raise me to walk on these seas. On your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. Raise me up more than I can breathe. You raise me up. On me, Jesus. I am strong when I am on your shoulder. Raise me up to more than I can breathe. Raise me up, raise me up. I can
This is what you are doing for your veterans every day and for your co-workers every day. So I can't watch that without a tear to my eye and know the difference that you are making as a unit peer leader. This concludes the module on roles and responsibilities of being a unit peer leader. Please ask whatever questions you have. If you are watching this virtually, email your facility coordinator, get your questions answered, and thank you for everything that you do as a unit peer leader.